speech is going with the flow. It's going to be 5 to 7 minutes. John?
Last week, my family and I went to the Pacific Northwest for vacation from Saturday to Saturday, and we got to experience a neat city, walked in a couple national parks, and spend some valuable time together. We flew into Portland, Oregon, spent about 2.5 days there at a bed and breakfast, walked around the city. We drove up to Olympia to see a couple friends, went to Olympic National Park, walked a little bit on the southern area of that park, and then we continued on down the coast of Washington State, Oregon, and then into Crescent City, California. Just south of there is where the Redwood National Park is, and we walked along the groves of coastal redwoods, which are quite amazing. We then took Route 199 back to Interstate 5 to Portland, and we flew in on Sunday morning. 2:30 in the morning, our plane landed at John Glenn Port Columbus International Airport. Got home about 3:45 after we got our luggage and got on its way. What was neat, though, is that my family now, we're really 4 adults. My sons Connor and Cole are almost 16 and 14. They're not kids anymore. And so really it was 4 adults traveling together, and what we did exceptionally well, each of us did a good job of going with the flow. And whenever you're traveling with a group, that is so important. Or when you're doing any group activity. For example, my sons and I attended the Portland Timbers soccer match. The Seattle Sounders were in town. It was Sunday at noon. Tickets were a little pricey. They were hard to get. The park, Providence Park, where the Timbers play, is 22,000 seats, and it was jam-packed. And we're glad we got seats. Janet wasn't so keen on it, and she said, well, why don't I hit the art museum while you guys are doing that, because the boys probably don't care much about the art museum as well as the arboretum, and I could take it or leave it. I kind of like both, but I like the soccer match better. And she said, I'll do that while you're doing the soccer match, and then we'll get together for lunch. And throughout the week, there was a lot of give and take, and it was neat to see we could do that. And every once in a while, I had to elbow the boys and say, okay, Mom wants to walk around the redwoods just a little more. I think we're going to be okay. And I'm sure she was elbowing the boys, saying, Dad wants to walk around Portland just a little more. Hang in there. It'll be okay. We've got food just down the end of the road. And again, the boys hit the Nike store. We had some nice food places in Portland. The beach was fun along Oregon. I love that ocean compared to the one on the other side of the country. It's a neat experience. It's very different. It's much cooler, and I'd say less commercial, at least the parts that we saw. It was a fun experience, but going with the flow was probably the thing that made it all happen so well. Going with the flow means you don't get everything you want. You get some things, but you also get to experience things that you wouldn't have thought about. Benefits of going with the flow are, first of all, the people around you all benefit. Everyone's a little flexible. It's a little bit smoother for everybody. But the biggest thing is, if you only get what you want, you live in your tight little world. So you got your little box, and all you're ever going to experience is what you know, and you think that's good because you're getting everything you want. But in reality, one of the best things is if you step back and you go with the flow, you have an opportunity to get all these other things that you never even would have thought about. You get some of the stuff in your box, but you have all these other opportunities you could never have dreamt of. And I'm glad the boys and Janet and myself, we all got to experience that. Question: can you go with the flow? I have a little test for you if you're not sure. The next time you go out to lunch with someone, with a friend, let them choose. You let them pick. Don't put any input into the decision. You just go where they want to go. When you get to the restaurant, don't say anything about the table. Maybe you wanted a booth. Too bad. Sit at the table. Make the best of it. And then when you actually go to order your meal, you actually order what's on the menu. Yeah. Don't tweak it. Don't get a bunch of stuff on the side. Just order what's on the menu, provided there's no allergy you have to be worried about. The waiter or waitress is not your personal slave for 30, 40 minutes. They're a person to be respected as well. They're just working a job. And see how that makes you feel. Maybe even thinking about it makes you twitch a little bit. If it does, then maybe you have a little work to do. I think of going with the flow as like a muscle in the body. And the more you develop it, the better you are at it, and the richer and more dynamic your life will be. Ways you can develop it, do the little restaurant test. That might be a good little workout for you. Do that a few times, and again, you'll probably eat some new foods. Maybe you'll see some new places that you never would have went on your own. Let your spouse drive, and you sit in the front seat with your hands folded and keeping your mouth shut. This is where I have a lot of work to do. Now, I'm the better driver, that's probably why. Maybe, instead of driving down the freeway at 75 in the left lane honking your horn, you're in the right lane going 60 and more relaxed, watching traffic fly by on the left. There's a lot of different things you can do to practice going with the flow. But trust me, if you get better at going with the flow, your life will be richer, the people around you will be happier, life will be nicer. Go with the flow. Good luck with that.
That was kind of encouraging. It's nice to think about an alternative way of living, isn't it? Our next speaker, Mike Rudd. I don't have a title for his speech. Is he going to speak today?
I am going to speak.
Something about timing.
I'm going to time myself, and I am going to speak. The title of the speech is actually, it's Vision.
Vision.
So,
Vision.
Oh,
yes.
Very good. Mike Rudd, Vision.
John and I must have been channeling each other last night, I feel like, because this is almost part 2 of John's speech, I feel like.
Cool.
When you decide in life, I'm going to get what I want. I'm going to go out and get it. I'm going to have this extraordinary life. It puts you in a box because it all of a sudden allows you to only plan out 24 hours around you. And all of a sudden, nothing outside of it matters. I believe we all have to create visions because extraordinary things happen. But the way to do that, instead of focusing in and becoming rigid, is going with the flow, stepping out of your box, and then creating this vision. Because then when the question goes from, what do you want? What do you want? Well, I want to wake up in the morning and I want to cook eggs. Then I want to go for a 45-minute walk. Then I want to take a long shower and get ready for work. Then I want to take my kids to school and actually wave at them when I drop them off. Then I want to get to work. Then I want to do my job and not have any flurry of emails get in my way. Then I want to go to lunch with my wife. As that goes, the slightest traffic I heard today was terrible because of the rain. I wouldn't know, but that was the word on the street. All of a sudden, you're 15 minutes late for work. All of a sudden, you don't get to actually drop your kids off of school and actually wave goodbye to them. That's because you've created this jam-packed way to go, and it's only one way, and then when things start to tweak a little bit, you're all screwed up, and you get frazzled, and your vision of your perfect day, screwed. And all of a sudden you went from what you thought was going with the flow to a stressed out maniac. When you go with the flow, and you create that vision, you create it over broader and bigger scope. I want to not feel rushed in my day. I want to feel alive when I eat and cook food. I want to have conversations with people when I actually look them in the eye. Then your day starts to shift. And all of a sudden, getting to work 15 minutes late is okay because you were dropping your children off at school and wanted to say goodbye to them. You didn't want to get in a car wreck, cutting somebody off in a downpour to get to work 7, 6, 5 minutes earlier. When you start to realize that life can be, and each day can be a marathon with various stages where you're a little cramped and crowded sometimes, and then you're shooting off the gates and everything's rolling, and then you're going to have some crappy stuff happen sometimes. But if you're going with the flow, you can take it all in stride. And I think the biggest thing for that, the biggest way you can excel at that, is creating vision. Creating vision for everything that you do, but having it be broader scoping. I love to travel. Me 3 years ago, I would have had this entire year of where we were going and how we were doing it and what I was going to be doing done a year and a half in advance. Instead, I started going with the flow. 3 weeks ago, one of my clients called me and said, hey, look, if you can buy your airline ticket to go to London and the Cotswolds with me, I have a 3-day VIP pass for you at a yoga and wellness festival with wine tastings every night, fresh food made by chefs. I'm going to pick up the car and the bed and breakfast for the day before and after. We can cruise the countryside of England, and all I need you to do is work this booth with me for 3 hours a day. Are you in? Yes. Of course I am. But without the vision of going with the flow of wanting to travel, and instead of having the vision of I'm going to plan this out because I am going to travel and I'm going to have it all in the books and then I'm going to go, an opportunity like that wouldn't have happened. When the basketball camp that I put on with 97 Won the Fan, my old boss called me this year and was like, dude, we can't sell sponsors, so therefore we can't do the camp anymore. I would have said, okay, that sucks. All right, well, on to the next thing. Instead, I went with the flow and I called 2 of my friends who were helping me with the camp and I said, you guys have a 501c3, right? Or 501c, whatever it is. It's a nonprofit that I can go under the insurance for and not be liable if a kid breaks his ankle. And I said, do you want to do this basketball camp with me? They said, with who? Like, who else? I said, whoever we can get. Let's just put it together and run it. Okay, yeah, let's do it. It's next Friday. And it's happening. And honestly, it was easier doing it that way, going with the flow of this is done, and then rebounding off of it than it would have been the other way. People have mindsets, it seems like, of life is hard, life is tough, life throws things at you. Life is going to throw so many screwdrivers and wrenches at us that we're going to be constantly ducking. I've come to the realization of that. But there's also a quote from a gentleman in this club loves to say, 10% of life is what happens to you and 90% is how you react to it. Thank you, Tracy. That is vision, though. You create that vision from that quote, and that's how you live. I want to inspire all of you today to create vision for your day, for your next day, for your next month, for how you're going to work, for how you're going to eat, for how you're going to have conversations with people. Being in the moment is a great place to start, but forcing other people to choose how you're going to be in the moment with them, that vision all of a sudden dissipates very quickly. So go with the flow with it, but have that vision, and I believe anyone in here, without vision, Toastmasters wouldn't be here. Without vision, none of us would be in this Toastmasters club right now and wanting to do things in this world. And it doesn't have to be dropping everything and traveling around the world. It can be how I'm going to live this day and live it with a vision that goes with the flow, and I promise action will come as a result of it. Thank you.
maybe we should revert to videotaping our speeches, and we could probably make some money on YouTube. They were very impressive speeches, all of them today. And it was unusual how the last two blended together. But the first one introduced us to the last two also.
Yeah.
So it was quite a
It was a phenomenon.
and it was certainly a creative vision. But we've reached the end of the formal part of presentations. Now we're going to get into a little bit of having fun with